Give me a D and a G. It's the Dunga Show. It's the Dunga Show.
Hey, dog, your beard's looking flickin' great, my man.
Thanks, Gus. I've been using the Bush Beard Wash.
The what now?
At Bush Beard, they know that every man with a beard is a unique beardo. And that's why they offer a wide range of products to cater to every beard's needs. Whether you have a long and luscious mane or prefer to keep it short and sharp, their products will help you achieve that perfect look.
From the nourishing beard oil and balm to the refreshing beard wash, their products are made with all-natural local ingredients to keep that beard healthy, soft, and lustrous. The beard comb and brush are designed to detangle and shape your beard, making sure you always look your best.
At Bush Beard, they're dedicated to providing the best possible grooming experience for all the beardos out there. So why settle for an average beard when you can have a glorious, well-groomed one? Try Bush Beard products today and unleash the full potential of your beard.
Be sure to use Dog and Gus 10 and get 10% off your order.
Bush Beard, the small town brand with the big old Canadian heart. Welcome to the Dog and Gus Show.
Now on nothing.
Yeah, we don't have a radio station right now.
No, we'll find one.
We'll get one.
What do we got going on today, Dog?
Oh, very, very impressive show today, I tell you.
Well, we have a very well-dressed individual.
Yeah, he's a sharp-dressed man. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
We have Mr. Mayor Mark Sutcliffe. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. I don't have a radio show anymore either. So,
That's right. Yeah.
We're all in the same boat. Great to be with you guys. Thanks
great
for
to
what you
have
do and for, sharing your love of music and for doing a very Ottawa focused podcast, which is great. Telling stories about Ottawa is fantastic too. So great to be with you guys.
Thanks so much. Thank you. So now, do we call you Mr. Mayor, Your Lordship, Your Highness? What are we going to call you today?
Mark is fine.
Oh,
Mark
wow.
is totally
Okay.
fine. Yeah.
Mark is fine.
Yeah.
Wow.
Good.
Very cool.
I don't know. I think it'd be hard for me not to call him Mr. Mayor.
Yes. Yeah.
I know
Thank you
that.
again, so-
I got to tell you, that's one of the things. When I got the job, and I went to City Hall. I'm not a very formal person, so I was just saying to everybody, just call me Mark. It's fine, whatever. And a few people were like, we can't do that. Like we don't feel comfortable doing that. It doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right to us. So I got used to everybody calling me Mr. Mayor, which seems kind of silly, but anyway, the way it is.
Well,
Hard habit to break for people.
That's right, exactly. And the one thing that I have noticed about you is that you're humble and you're like pretty down to earth. So it's very, I'm sure it'd be weird to be here, hearing Mr. Mayor all the time, even though you are Mr. Mayor. So you have to
Accept it and move on.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
When did you realize you had a love for music? Because you obviously do. I mean, that's part of the thing. But when did that sort of hit you as a child?
Yeah, I think it was when I was a teenager, and I got a Walkman, and this was back in the 1980s, and I got a portable cassette player, and I started going to the music store at Carlingwood and buying tapes and walking home from Carlingwood and listening to these tapes and trading ideas with my friends, and then there was a group of guys at my high school at St. Pius X who started playing music during the lunch hour, and they called it Radio Pius. And then a group of us, I wasn't involved in that, but I knew those guys, and we would always be talking about, oh, you should play this, you should play that. So I became very aware of music and into music with a group of friends kind of in the mid 1980s when I was in grade 11, 12, 13.
Cool. Nice. Now, are you a musician?
No. Well, let's say that. I love music. I wish I was. During COVID, I tried to start playing the guitar a little bit with my son. It was, something to do. We did some of these online lessons, and I'd love to get back to that at some point. I played in the high school band. I played the trombone. I love music. My mom was a music teacher, and so it's always been around in our family. My grandmother was a concert pianist. And so, music's been a big part of my life that way. And I know I think I'd be okay at it. Like I have an ear for it and I can read music, but I just never had the time to invest in being any good at it. So,
right.
But I wish I could play the guitar. I really wish I could play the guitar.
So now would be a good time to start practicing because you're not very busy.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. Like a couple hours a day, you know, sort of 10 to noon, maybe.
There you go.
Yeah. In my office.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The mayor's unavailable. I'm sorry.
Yeah. He's in a
Exactly.
really important meeting.
Very important
What's
meeting.
What's that sound coming from his office?
Oh,
Yeah.
no.
Awful. It's awful. What is that?
Yeah, exactly.
Who were your musical influences when you were growing up?
A big one for me was Bruce Springsteen. So I loved Bruce Springsteen. I still do. I love the Eagles and the Who, and a lot of sort of 70s, 80s bands and performers. And I remember, Born to Run was a big album, and then I remember when Born in the USA came out. It was around the time I was in high school, the time I was just describing, and I remember seeing the poster for it in the music store. That iconic poster of him, you know, with the jeans and the hat in his pocket and the flag, and getting the album and listening to it all the way through for the first time, and then I can remember many times where I was waiting at the bus stop, you know, for the next bus to come after visiting a friend or on my way home from school, and just popping that into my cassette player and listening to it all the way home. So I would say, you know, Springsteen's right at the top of my list, but all of that kind of, you know, John Cougar, Bryan Adams, Fleetwood Mac, you know, all of that kind of stuff that was pretty big at that time.
Yeah, the Born in the USA album doesn't have a bad song on it.
Oh, it doesn't.
Oh, exactly.
And it's hard to find that these days now when people are putting out like an LP, like 10 songs, you find, okay, I like these 3.
Yeah.
But it's hard to find an album where each song is like just as good as the first. It's an art.
It's like Day for Night.
Yes. You know, or Up to Here, because I love every song on Up to Here.
That's right. See, you do like the hip.
I do. I secretly love them.
What about
Genesis
you,
was another big one for me.
Yes.
I listened to a lot of Genesis in the 80s. Yeah.
Did you see Peter Gabriel when he was in town?
I did. The when he was in town, what was that, about a year ago?
A year and a bit,
that?
yeah.
Was it
Yeah.
over a year?
Yeah, it's been over a year, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. That
Yeah,
was cool.
I was there. I was at that show. That was great. And I saw him at the Civic Center. I'm going to guess that was probably about 1989 or something like that. He performed at the Civic Center. Fantastic show. Like one of the best shows I've ever seen.
There you go.
It's awesome. Yeah, he's very good.
Yeah.
We enjoyed it when we went.
Yeah. Well, that was quite, you got quite jazzed when he did your song and he didn't play mine. So,
Yeah, big time.
yeah.
Big time.
Big
So with working with the CM, like the Canadian, the Capital Music Awards, sorry, how does that make you feel when you see something that's progressed so nicely through COVID and making Ottawa so popular as far as music and the work that Melanie's doing and all that?
It's amazing. I'm so impressed with what that group has done, led by Melanie, and you know, just a group of really committed people who love music, who perform music themselves, who got together and started making that happen. And the awards show now is like, it's a big night in Ottawa every year. It's a big production. It's incredibly well done, and it celebrates all of our local artists. And it reminds everybody that we actually do have a fantastic music scene in our city and great local artists. And so I love what they're doing, and I'm very happy to support it any way I can. And I think there's so much more we can do with that. And when you look at all the things that are going on in our city right now, it's really exciting. We've got the amazing music festivals. We didn't have any of that when I was a kid. The Jazz Festival, the Blues Fest, you know, the City Folk, all those other events didn't exist when I was a kid. What I remember most when I was a kid is if you wanted to go see a big show, you had to go to Montreal or Toronto. We didn't have the venues here. We didn't, you know, so there would occasionally be some great artists that would come to Ottawa and perform at Barrymore's and places like that. But for the big shows, you have to go somewhere else. And now we have these wonderful festivals, and we have shows that are performing, you know, at Canadian Tire Centre or at TD Place at Lansdowne. And then we have the prospect of this new music venue in the Byward Market at the corner of Rideau and Sussex, which would be fantastic. Apparently things are moving forward on that. So there's a lot to look forward to as well. But I'm really impressed and inspired by this group of committed people who are driving this forward and really supporting and enhancing the local music scene.
That's a great answer, because you lead right into my next question. What do we need to do here in Ottawa to get people to stop, like larger bands, from jumping from Montreal to Toronto and, you know, come and play here in Ottawa for us? Is there any? You have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think we're seeing some of them. I know Springsteen's come in Ottawa in November, and there are other big shows that have come through here. It is still a bit of a phenomenon. I think the way the tour business has changed a lot, where you don't. It feels to me like some of the bigger artists they're not on the road in the same way that they used to be, where they're literally on the road and they just move from town to town with their trucks and buses. And now they might go to Toronto and play 3 shows in Toronto, and then fly somewhere else and play 3 or 4 shows there, and then they skip over the medium-sized cities. I think that's one of the challenges we face, but having more and better venues would contribute to that. I think it's early in the process, but the Senators are talking about building a new arena. We're looking at a new arena at Lansdowne Park that would be a different size from the current one, and it would be a modern facility that would be much more attuned to kind of the music scene. What we have at Lansdowne Park right now is basically a hockey arena stuck underneath a football stadium, and it's an aging facility. So yeah, you can put on a show there, but the acoustics aren't ideal, and it's the facility's kind of in disrepair. What we're talking about with the new 5,500 to 6,500 seat venue at Lansdowne would be something that would be much more suitable for shows of that size. And I think there's a lot of artists that are in that range that we could bring to Ottawa, and even other things like comedy shows and other performances like that, which would be great. So I think we're going to see a big upgrade over the next 5 years in the kinds of facilities we have in Ottawa, which will be great.
Liking that.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I was super stoked about the Sens coming out with that, and maybe we get bigger venues, but like bigger artists downtown. You know, like people that, and not to knock Canada, but like when someone comes from Toronto or somewhere else and they come to Ottawa and they're like, let's go to a hockey game. Okay, it's 45 minutes that way, and unfortunately, that's just not. We're not going to get into city planning because that's a different discussion, but. You know what I mean? It's sort of a nice thing to come about, I think, finally.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The other so where did the idea of having a nightmare come from?
This is something that's been done in other cities, not a lot of them, but one example is Manchester. I actually met with the mayor of Manchester in the UK, which is a big music city, obviously, and a big entertainment-driven city in the north of England. And I met with him. I guess let me think. It was back in April. We were already underway on our plan to have a nightlife commissioner, but what they've done in that city is really amazing. And really, what it is, a lot of people misunderstand the role of the nightlife commissioner, but the objective of that job is really to have somebody who understands the nightlife economy and is removing barriers and putting in place great policies within the city of Ottawa that will allow that industry to flourish. There's always issues and conflicts when you have the nightlife economy in a city. There are noise bylaws, and there are curfews, and there are parking issues, and you don't want any of that bureaucracy and all of those rules to get in the way of having a flourishing nighttime economy, because it employs a lot of people, and it spurs a lot of creativity and inspires a lot of young artists to do great things. So we want to have that happening in our city. We want to get rid of all the barriers to that, and we want to have good policies in place that will allow that industry to flourish. So that's the job of the nightlife commissioner, is to work on the plan that we had established, and to really eliminate the barriers and create the environment in which the nightlife can really succeed in our city, including the music industry.
That's awesome. And we're just a little curious as to why we didn't get the call.
You have no idea how many people have come to me. So why
sure
couldn't
you've
I
had
do
a
that job?
few.
Why couldn't I do that job? Yeah.
Just say we're too old. That's what you should have said. We're too old.
Yeah, we don't have
Never
our
too
thumb
old,
on the
never too
pulse.
old.
Yeah, true that. Yeah. What or who inspires you?
Oh, geez, lots of people. I'm trying to think. You're putting me on the spot here. one of the great things about my job is I get to meet so many people in the city, and it's a great reminder of how wonderful the people of Ottawa are. It's a really kind and caring and generous community. There's a lot of people who work in government and in the not-for-profit sector and with national organizations that are devoted to advancing the well-being of people. So there's a lot of really caring and compassionate people in our community. And there are people who go to work every day to try to make the lives of the most vulnerable in our community better, the lives of children and seniors and others in our community better. And, I always worked in the media or in private business, and then I volunteered for organizations and I was on the board of different organizations, but that's a part-time investment of time, right? You're sitting on a board, you go to a monthly board meeting, you do a few phone calls in between. I really admire the people who work day in and day out trying to make other people's lives better in our community, supporting the most vulnerable, supporting seniors, supporting youth. To me, that's really inspiring to see those people who have devoted their careers and their full-time hours to that kind of work. And it's the same way, frankly, with people who work in the music business or any other part of the arts industry in our city. When I see those people who, how tough it is, right? Like to be there's a handful of artists who are making really good money, and then there's a lot of people who are slogging away because they love it so much, because they really can't. It's in their fiber. They can't do anything else. They really have to be an artist, and they face so many uphill battles and so many challenges to get attention, to get people to see their work and hear their work. And so I really admire those people as well, the people who have devoted their full-time attention to being an artist, whatever form of art that is, and are making that contribution to the world despite some very difficult conditions often to do it
Yeah.
Yeah, what he said.
Mm-hmm.
We talked a little bit about your musical, like what you love. Do you have a guilty musical pleasure? Something that's kind of like, yeah, I like them too.
Sure, like quite a few. Like I like a lot of pop music, like from the 70s, 80s. Like I'll listen to ABBA if it comes on, or you remember that song "Take on Me" by Aha?
Yeah.
Like
Great video.
anything like
Great
that.
video.
Yep.
Even some Backstreet Boys, or
Oh.
for some reason I have like a little bit of an inclination towards that kind of catchy earworm pop kind of music, as well as the classic rock that is sort of my favorite. So yeah, there's
Fair
a few
enough.
guilty pleasures in there that I'm admitting to here.
Yes. Finally, somebody answered it the way I wanted to hear it.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I mean,
I ask a lot, and people kind of dance around it.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
I want to know that you like Britney
Yeah.
Spears, that
Or-
you listen to Taylor Swift. I want to know this.
Yeah. Or somebody will say, "Oh, what's your guilty pleasure?" and they'll share something that's actually like a cool thing to do, which is not a
Right.
guilty pleasure, right?
Exactly.
Like, yeah. My guilty pleasure is I listen to a lot of blues. Yeah, that's not a guilty
that's
pleasure.
not guilty. Yeah.
no, it's not. No, there's some good blues. Do you have vinyl? Do you collect vinyl?
No, my wife has a bit, but I never got into that. In my house when I was growing up, there wasn't a record player, and so I got into the tapes right away because I could listen to them when I was on the move, with a portable electronic device that was the size of a Harry Potter novel, right? Like it was
Yeah.
like a big fat thing that you were carrying around or supposedly able to put on your belt. But
Yeah, the Walkman Sport. Yeah,
That was just like heavy duty.
yeah.
yeah.
So I mean, it was like a primitive cell phone, like the
Yeah.
size of a novel, and so I got into the tapes, and then one of the big exciting purchases I had when I was a kid was I got a double cassette player where you could take your tapes and then you could make a mixtape, right? Or you could you could do a greatest hits of your own kind of compilation and then play that or give the tape to your friend or whatever. So I started making my own tapes and doing that kind of stuff, and I still have that double cassette player in my basement.
That's amazing.
That's how important it was to me. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. Like, did that? So you obviously recorded off the radio, and then did that sort of
Yeah.
spurn into like like the love of trying to become on the like a radio host?
Yeah,
like you
absolutely.
did? Yeah.
Like when I was a kid, I would listen to back then, CFRA was a music station, and they had Mark Elliott was the nighttime DJ, and he had a top 5 countdown every night, and they had a countdown on the weekends, and I would listen to that, and yeah, you'd record some of those songs so you could listen to them again. And I remember I had a friend, this was back in the time before MTV or Much Music. There was Friday night videos on
David
NBC.
Mulligan.
Yeah. On CBC. And wasn't there one on NBC too? And I had a friend who would record that, and we would literally, like, every day after school, I'd go to his house and we'd just watch the same episode every day for a week until there was a new one that came out on the following Friday. Right. So
we had Terry David Mulligan, and they had Casey Kasem. So he had his top 40.
Yeah.
It was pretty popular, but yeah, Good Rockin' at Midnight, I think it was called. Good Rockin' Tonight was
Tonight.
it was the Terry David Mulligan one.
Yeah.
I remember that
so,
too.
Yeah, that sort of spurred my love of radio. Like I was listening to that. I listened to Shea 106. I ended up working at Shea 106, and that really got me into radio. I'd be listening every night.
Very cool.
It's cool. I was more the bear, but that was
yeah, but that's a little bit later. You're younger.
Yeah.
You're younger. Now, when you were dating your wife, did you make her a mixtape?
No, I didn't.
Oh no,
no, we were too old for that by then. I did make a few of them back in the day,
Yeah,
the LimeWire CD.
Oh my God, that was awful.
Yeah,
because I used to do that a lot to be the thing. Well, I did it with our CDs for our trips, but I also did mixtapes for friends. I'm like, here, I just put this together last night when I couldn't sleep.
Yeah, because you're an insomniac.
Yeah, that's true.
But what a cool gift, right? Like, honestly, that when you think about what that represents, right? Like it's a gift. You're giving somebody something, and they get to listen to it, and they hear some music. But it's such a form of communication as well, right? Like the songs you choose for them, right? That you're seeing something in them, you want them to hear something new, or like that's just. It's such a cool gift. The idea of a mixtape to me is just such a cool gift that you're giving somebody. It's creative. It's not your music, but it's your choices, right? So you're making a statement with that, and you're sharing your love of music with somebody else. I love it. I think it's
romantic,
great.
Actually. It's very romantic. I like it. You're right. I think that technology has so many benefits. Like obviously we're literally living in it right now, but the thing that is missing, I think, is that physical piece that, like you can hand somebody something that you put together, you spent a couple hours on, you thought about them, and like you said, it's such a language. Music is such a language. Yeah. It's like you can basically tell a lot about a person by what they're listening to or what they give you as a mixtape.
Exactly. Or that's what he was saying. Like if I tell somebody a song that I like, you're giving a piece of yourself to that person, because
exactly.
This is, okay, I listen to this song when, oh, okay. And then they take what they take from it. And that's great.
Yeah. Or I thought of you, this song makes me think of you, right? Like that's just, it's beautiful.
Charmer. You're a charmer, aren't you?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm going to say to all the other cities out there, we have the coolest mayor.
We do, for sure. I mean, we kind of knew that already. That's why we wanted him on our music show.
Yeah.
Do you before you do a speech or anything, do you have like a pre-show ritual? We ask that to a lot of musicians, but because you do a lot of public speaking and events and such, do you have something that kind of gets you into the mode of being focused and ready to go?
One of the things I try to do, I don't do this often enough, but I try to put myself in the position of the person in the audience, right? So there's a lot of boring speeches in the world, and I don't want to just be another talking head on a podium, with where people are kind of sitting there thinking, when's this going to be over? So I try before I walk up there to think, okay, what can I do that can connect with people? How do I put myself in their shoes rather than mine? So I'm with them, and I'm not talking at them, and I'm not trying to tell them or convince them of something. I'm trying to relate to them. And so I try to think like that. I got to always remind myself to do it, because it's very easy to snap back into just, I've got this script in front of me and I just need to read this script. But yeah, I think, it's not music and it's not performance in the same way, but I think it's similar. in you're trying to make a connection with the audience, right?
Mhm.
You're trying to hit them where they are and move with them rather than just get up and say a bunch of words that were written in a vacuum, So that's kind of my thought process when I get up there.
Makes sense.
It does, really. I'm going to sort of put you on the spot a little bit.
Uh-oh.
It's music. Is there a musician, a band, singer that you just don't understand that the excitement that they generate? Is there something like, I don't know, I could throw an example out there, but I don't really have a really good
Taylor
one.
Swift.
Well, Taylor Swift is talented, though, so I understand the
She's
excitement
very
behind that, but it's just,
My daughters love her too. So
yeah.
I'm not
Oh,
gonna-
there you go.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you're not saying
Yeah.
anything. But is there somebody out there you just go, I just don't understand it?
Yeah, there's a few. I mean, I would say I really admire Taylor Swift, and I don't dislike Taylor Swift, and I think like what a phenomenal business person, artist, icon. She totally knows what she's doing. And she means so much to so many people, but I've never, none of her music has ever grabbed me. And I know
Yeah, of course.
maybe I'm not in the demographic. That's fine. It's not for everyone. Doesn't have to be. So it's not like I hate it and I change the station or whatever. It's not like that. But it doesn't grab me in any way. I'm trying to think who else would fit into that category. There's my wife and my daughter listen to a lot of like brand new pop music, and within that there's a bunch of artists that again, they just don't do anything for me. So, and I think I'm just more of an old school classic rock kind of person. So, it just, that kind of music just doesn't work for me.
There you go.
Yeah, goes over your head. How important do you find that the National Arts Center, they actually, obviously we have one of the best arts center in the world, but they've created this program where if you're under 25, they only charge you like $10. How important is that to allow youth to get in there and be able to see proper arts?
I think it's great. And, it's the thing you always fear is young people not connecting with the arts, because and I know this is probably like a tale as old as time, that every generation is probably worried about what are kids going to get into, and are they going to really gain an appreciation for the arts? But now more than ever, because there's so many distractions, and and kids can just go, on TikTok or Instagram and just spend all their time there. Are they ever going to go to a play or a musical performance in person? Are they going to ever hear classical music? Are they ever going to hear jazz or blues, other types of music? So I think it's huge, and we're so lucky to have the National Arts Center. It's a beautiful, beautiful venue, and they've done such a great job with the renovation that happened about 10 years ago that makes it connect to Elgin Street more. And they have that beautiful podium that's all lit up, and the space inside is wonderful now. We're so lucky to have that right downtown. I always point out a lot of the great spaces in our city are not actually downtown. They're on the periphery of downtown, and they're wonderful institutions, and I love them all. That you think of the National Gallery of Canada or the War Museum or the Museum of Nature, and they're all just sort of on the outer edge of downtown, north, south, and west. And the National Arts Center is actually right downtown. It's right in the heart of the city. It's a bunch of performing arts spaces. They've got that smaller stage now, which is great. They've got some smaller rooms that are good venues, and then the bigger performing arts spaces that they've always had. And to create that kind of access for young people is really remarkable, to give them the opportunity, students especially, to get in there and see different things and try things out and decide what their path forward is going to be. I think it's fantastic. We're so lucky to have that right in the heart of our downtown core.
Agreed.
Yeah, so I'm going to go the other way.
You would.
I do. If you could transport yourself back in time to any event or musical festival, what would it be?
Wow. Yeah, there's a few. I mean, just the other day I was listening to the concert in the park by Simon and Garfunkel. They did this concert in Central Park, and I think you hear all different numbers, but I think there was something like 400,000 people there or something. Yep. That's what some people have said. And it's such a great show, and I like Simon and Garfunkel. They wouldn't necessarily be in my top 10, but it's just when you think of that time and that it's New York City and it's Central Park and just all those iconic songs they were performing live, and there was a nice sort of vibe to that because it wasn't a perfect performance. Like there was a couple of places where they screwed up a couple of lines and started over and things like that, which is what makes it so real and authentic and makes you appreciate it even more. So that comes to mind. I'm trying to think what else. I mean, I'd love to go into some of the clubs when some of your favorite artists are performing early in their careers and check that out. Right. I'm not sure if I were to go back, it would be to some massive venue, to see the Rolling Stones or something. It would be to go back and see Springsteen performing somewhere in New Jersey when he was just starting out and just had all that youthful energy. It'd be something like that, I think.
Which he still has when he's like 75 years old. Like,
I know.
Like
He still plays one of the longest concerts. Like his concerts are 2.5, 3 hours long.
Well, I was watching his fitness routine, and he goes at it. Like he's a really fit guy.
Yeah. Well, he didn't start that way though. Like Born. You look at Born to Run, and like he's a scrawny dude.
And the river, the rivers, like
because they used to run the river and stuff, and
it almost broke him because he worked like 20 hours a day.
Yeah.
Same with Jimmy Iovine. I don't know if you've watched the Defiant ones. It's a really great. They talk about Dr. Dre and Jimmy Iovine and how they kind of connected eventually. But it was he talks about how the work ethic of Springsteen during that album, and it almost killed Jimmy Iovine because it was like 20 hours a day. Like he was just such a perfectionist, So
I know. I read his book, Springsteen's book, and he's just relentless, right? Like he's just a perfectionist. And he has this vision for what he wants, and he just does not let go of it.
Yeah, it's great.
I saw him on Broadway when he had that show on Broadway. This is about 5-6 years ago, where he was performing every night on Broadway, and it was like a smaller venue, 400 or 500 people. And my wife and I splurged and got tickets for that, and it was so good. We were in like the 9th or 10th row, So
nice.
Yeah, that was great.
That's really cool.
Yeah,
that's really great.
I've seen him twice here in Ottawa, once with the E Street Band and once by himself.
I saw him in Buffalo.
Yeah. He puts on a hell of a show for sure.
Yeah. That show, I think he went on his own. It was all like, it was just him on the stage, right? Playing a bunch of different instruments. And I think I was there too. And there was a lightning strike on the building when
and the power went out.
The power went out for a little bit, and then it started up again. Yeah.
Yeah. And he didn't miss a beat.
No,
not a beat. He made a joke about the electrician getting fired because we had no power. Yeah. And he just kept going.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great. So you're a super fan. You've seen him how many times?
I've seen him probably six or seven times. Yeah.
That's good. That's a good amount. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not like my hip.
No, it's not your hip numbers, but it's, it's okay.
And there's guys, I know people who have they've traveled all over North America and they see him 7 or 8 times on each tour and all of that. That I've never done that, but yeah, he's
I wish I had that kind of money.
Yeah, exactly.
Just to go, I'm going to follow these. Oh, they're on tour for the next 2 months. Great. Take off work and away I go.
It's like my buddy who saw the Stones in Europe a bunch of times.
Europe's a little different though, because it's smaller, right? You can go.
Exactly.
True. Yeah.
Like even I was watching the documentary on the hip, like the very first episode, and they're talking about touring Canada, how hard it is because we're in North Bay next, we got to go to Saskatchewan. Well, that's a, 15, 17-hour drive.
Yeah.
But in Europe, it's like, okay, we're in Germany, now we're going to France. Okay, 3 hours later, here we are.
That's right. Yeah. True.
It's a lot different, right?
Every one of those countries has 4 or 5 cities you can perform in that are 3 or 4 million people at least, right?
Exactly. So, it's just set up a lot better than we are for that kind of stuff.
Yeah. That's why they got to come. Everybody's going to come to Ottawa so we can all see them.
Yes.
What if you could see like Ottawa in the next couple of years artistically and see what these big venues have shown up, and obviously our population's grown a lot, but if you could envision how the city looks in the next couple of years, how do you envision that for the arts programs and also venues?
Yeah, as I mentioned before, I think there's a couple of exciting things on the horizon. I'm really optimistic about this venue that we could have in the Byward Market, right at Rideau and Sussex, at the old Chapters building. The NCC purchased that property and has entered into a possible deal with Live Nation to program that space and lease it, and they're working on the plan for that. So that would be fantastic, and it would bring a different type of atmosphere. You know, it's not. I think what they're looking at is a good old fashioned concert hall. It's not a place with a whole bunch of fixed seating. It's more of like a big floor with where people can dance, and people sometimes you can have tables, sometimes you don't, and just a big empty box that you can program some great music for. So that would be great. I really think there's lots of potential with the new venue at Lansdowne Park. That would be a medium-sized venue, but really state-of-the-art. And then I think there's a lot that we can do outside of the music scene. Just, you know, we've got some great stuff in our city. The Ottawa Art Gallery is a phenomenal spot in, you know, sort of on the edge of the Byward Market. And it's this wonderful building with great spaces inside it and great art. And when you know, sort of connect that with the National Gallery of Canada and some of the other smaller galleries and art stores in the Byward Market, you know, that's a great place to visit. The Byward Market obviously has had some challenges recently. You know, that's where it's sort of become, you know, a place where the mental health crisis and the opioid crisis have been playing out, and we are doing everything we can to address that. We need to do more, but there's so much potential in the Byward Market. It's such a big part of our history, and there's so much arts and culture. Everybody thinks of the Byward Market in terms of bars and shops and restaurants and that sort of thing, but there's a lot of arts and culture in the Byward Market, and we can take advantage of that. So there's great potential for that. The other thing I'll mention is Ottawa's 200th birthday is coming up in a couple of years. In 2026, it'll be 200 years since the formation of Bytown. And I think there's an opportunity to have a big party that year, a big year-long celebration, the 200th anniversary of our city. And we could bring in a lot of new stuff and one-time only stuff. But what I'm hoping to see is that we'll be able to work with a lot of the existing festivals and venues and enhance them, invest in them and help them grow. So maybe some of the festivals can go a little bit longer that year, or can attract bigger artists because it's this big birthday celebration. And maybe we can tap into some of the venues we have and do some additional programming. So I think and maybe, you know, the music awards that year can be an even bigger show. So I want to work with the people who are already doing amazing things and have that year enhance what they're doing and build on what they're doing, and keep people coming to Ottawa to celebrate arts and culture and keep them coming back.
Yeah, it's a great idea.
Well, we got a couple of years to work on that.
Yeah, but that'd be cool. I think it's like you forget that it is the 200th anniversary, and thank you for reminding us. Actually, that's great. The to have a big to do for that.
Well, for the whole year too would be great.
When they put in that Ottawa sign in the market, like it was sort of I remember when that happened, and I live in the south end of Ottawa, and there's the other one that the old one is out in someone's farmer's field.
Yeah.
What is that? Somebody mentioned that to me the other day, and I drove past it one time. It's just like it's in the middle of a field.
Just sitting there.
So the guy that owns that property like bought it, I guess, or whatever, came across it. Like a lot of these south end guys show up with this stuff, and you're like, where did this come from? And he's like, oh, I just got it. You know. Anyway, so he basically just set it up right on Bank Street, on the like way down Bank, obviously, and it's set up there. I remember I got out of my car and took a photo in front of it and sent it to a bunch of people, and they're like, where is that? Because the one downtown they've upgraded obviously with lights, and it looks great. It's a really great focal point for the market. But it's like, this random one that was the original one that they put in without the lights and everything is in a field in down Bank Street. That's what I love about Ottawa, man. It's weird.
Yeah,
for sure.
It's like the city had a garage sale, and this guy just came by and paid $50.
How much for that?
Right?
I feel like honestly, like he came in with a trailer and he's like, I'm taking the Ottawa sign, and what do you want for it? You know, like you're right. It's
or they're just like, take it away. We're good.
Yeah, it was at the Glebe garage sale.
There you go.
Just showed up, and then, I'll take that.
That's another huge thing in this city.
Huge.
Yeah, that's crazy. The Great Glebe garage sale is insane. It's just packed with people. You can, the sidewalks and the roads are just so crowded, and almost every house is participating in it. And it's amazing.
Yeah, there's like guys with like selling hot dogs and stuff like that.
Oh,
it's like a huge event. It's like pretty fun actually.
Buying stuff makes you hungry.
Yeah.
Now you kind of chatted about TikTok a little bit. I've got a TikTok-ish kind of rapid fire for you.
Oh, nice.
Sure. Yeah.
Nice.
So, and I didn't know at the time that you're a Springsteen fan, so I'm happy I didn't put him on the list because
He would have been the winner.
yeah, he would.
Yeah. I have
So,
a feeling I know who's going to.
I think so too, but we'll see. We'll see.
Shoot.
He may surprise us.
He may.
All right, Led Zeppelin or the Beatles?
The Beatles.
The Beatles or the Rolling Stones?
The Beatles.
The Beatles or the Kinks?
The Beatles.
The Beatles or the Allman Brothers?
The Beatles.
The Beatles or Leonard Skinner?
The Beatles. You shouldn't.
Okay.
You probably shouldn't have started with the Beatles.
No, I had to. It was just.
I'm a
it's
big
just-
Beatles fan. And by the
Yeah.
way, just not to go on a tangent here, but honestly, like one of the things that I am most proud of in my life is that I have shared the Beatles with my kids, and my kids understand the Beatles, and they know a whole bunch of Beatles songs, and I can put the Beatles on in the car when we're driving, and they will sing along to the music. And I'm like, I feel like as a dad, I accomplished something with that, you know.
Oh no, you're good parenting right there.
That's great parenting. Yeah.
Yep.
Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like my kids know who the Beatles are and
Yeah.
love the Beatles. And I feel like, wow, okay, I tick that box big time.
I know that Gus's children will as well, because I know he'll make sure that happens as well. So the
Well-
next generation is taken care of.
That's right. Yeah. Well, when my twins were in being baked, they
Yeah.
were like by my partner. She basically I played "Here Comes the Sun" all the time, and that was just like the song for my kids.
Yeah.
Even though that's more of a Harrison song, but still,
No, it's still- he was the Beatle.
Yeah.
All right. So to finish it up, it kind of gets so we're at the Beatles. I know these ones aren't going to win, but I threw them in because for one reason only. 8 seconds for the Beatles.
Great Ottawa band. Great Ottawa
Mhm.
band. Yeah. I will kiss you when it's dangerous.
Exactly.
Yeah. But still the Beatles. Yeah.
1-1.
1-1. I knew that was going to come up at some point. Yeah. Louise Rennie, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I'm trying to remember the guy's name.
But
but-
I can see him. I can see a picture of
Yeah.
him, but I just can't remember. Yep.
But-
I just.
But they were great, and they had
Yeah.
that terrific music video that they shot on Victoria Island,
Mhm.
in the ruins of that building on Victoria Island. Yeah,
And they also
um,
shot one at Zach's Diner
that's right. Yeah,
down in the market. Yeah.
Yeah. yeah.
'Cause
Got an
Louise-
angel in my pocket.
Yep,
I think was
yeah.
one of the songs. Yeah,
Yes. Yeah. Very good, sir.
yeah.
Yeah. Louise dated one of the owners of Zach's for a while. I think
Okay,
they actually got married. Jeff Borston. I used to work at Zach's, so 5-man electrical band.
oh, they were legends. Yeah, a little
Mhm.
before my time, but
Yep.
yeah, legendary. Yeah,
Yeah, I just threw them in because they're Ottawa bands.
yeah.
Okay,
Are
the
we gonna
last
get to
one.
Paul Anka.
No, I forgot Paul Anka.
My mom went to school with Paul Anka.
Oh my goodness, I forgot
Yeah.
Paul Anka. I'm sure there's a few I left off the list, and I apologize to all of those. The
Yeah.
last one is, so you said the Beatles. So the Beatles or the Tragically Hip?
Oh man.
Still the Beatles.
Oh,
Yeah,
no.
love the hip though, but
Yeah.
yeah, and I mean I love a bunch of the bands you mentioned there.
Yeah.
But I'm a big Beatles guy. Yeah.
Very good, sir.
What's your favorite Beatles song?
Oh, that's tough. I mean, Here Comes the Sun would be up there. I just love just such a sweet sounding song. I'm trying to think of something that's not obvious. I mean, I probably, Let It Be would be up there for sure. My daughter was learning the piano, and she learned the first few lines of the piano music for that, and it was so cool to have her playing that in our house. Yeah, I could listen to the Beatles all day long.
Yep, agreed.
A lot. I like Blackbird. It's one of
Yeah,
my
and
favorite songs.
Blackbird's
My-
great. Yeah,
Mine is Nowhere Man.
It's a good one
Okay.
too.
yeah.
Random, but yeah, I like that.
I'm not going to pick one of the big
It's
ones.
fair. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you balance maintaining your privacy and living in the public eye?
Ooh.
Yeah, it's been interesting. I go all over the place. I'll tell you a funny story actually of what it's like. I got no complaints. First of all, I want to be clear about that. I love my job. I love this city. I love the people of Ottawa. The opportunity to serve the people of Ottawa is great, and I understand why. When you're in politics, you're going to hear complaints. You're going to hear when people aren't happy. That's part of the job. So I accept all of that. But you guys might know I'm a runner, and I try to run every day. And a couple of weeks ago, for the first time in a really long time, I got a bit of an injury, and so my calf muscle is all seized up. And I went to my doctor, and it's a Saturday morning. and I'm walking into the doctor's office and I'm limping severely. Like it wasn't a serious injury, but because it was my calf muscle, I couldn't put any weight on it. And so I'm limping into the doctor's office, and it's a Saturday morning, and I'm walking into a doctor's office and I'm limping. So obviously there's something wrong, right? And I step into the lobby, and the surface was different in the lobby from the part outside the lobby, and I started to slip, and I almost wiped out, and I caught myself before I fell to the ground. And this woman was walking out of the doctor's office, and she looked at me and she said, "LRT sucks." And I thought, well, like, what a perfect moment, right? Because so I just kind of smiled at her and kept limping into the building. But it's like human being to human being. Here's a person. Here's another person walking into a doctor's office on a Saturday. There's obviously something wrong. They're limping and they almost wipe out. And in that moment, the only thing you can think of is to pass along your complaint about public transit, right?
Yeah.
And so anyway, those are the kinds of, but the other side of it is, I mean, that's the 1 in 100 example. 99 times out of 100 people are sharing stories about how wonderful it is to live in Ottawa. I meet people all the time who have moved to our city and who, like, just in the last couple of years, and they're amazed at what a beautiful city it is, how easy it is to get around. Of course, we have traffic problems like any other city, but not, nothing compared to the GTA or other big cities like that. And just how much they love being in Ottawa. And so most of what I get when I'm going around the community and people recognize me is very, very positive. But to answer your question, I feel like the thing that's great is having a family, right? And when I walk through the door every night at the end of a long day, I stop being the mayor and I start being a husband and dad again. And my kids couldn't care less what my job is, right? So what they want is their dad. They want help with homework, or they wanted, my son wants to watch a ball game with me, or whatever. And it just, everything becomes normal again, no matter what happened over the course of the day. And I know there are many people who are in politics who don't have a family or don't have kids the age of my kids. And I think it would be even tougher. Like my predecessor, Jim Watson, who was mayor for 12 years, invested all of his time and energy. He didn't have a family at home. He would come back to an empty house. And I think that would be you'd have to be really tough mentally and he was, to not have people that you can then walk into the door and they're waiting for you and have a normal life in that sort of environment. And that really keeps me grounded and keeps it real.
That's great. Yeah. It's like, even like going on that, I have younger daughters, twin daughters that are still in diapers, and no matter what I do all day, I have to change a diaper when I get home. So it's like, like it's just the normal, it is grounding for sure. I think that was a great answer in the sense that, like, you forget that, okay, yes, you have a high position, of course, but you're still a human being and you still have a family to take care of. And the LRT does suck, actually.
We're not getting into that.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
No.
It's amazing. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. I'm just teasing.
Once in a while, there's issues, and we still have problems to fix. But it's actually not that bad. But you're so right, because the thing I remind myself too is, I'm one day I'm not going to be the mayor anymore, right? Someday in the future I will stop being the mayor, but I will never stop being a dad. Yeah. I will never stop being a member of my family, and that's what really matters. Down the road, my world is pretty big right now, in the sense that I connect with a whole bunch of people all the time. But someday in the future, my world is going to be a whole lot smaller again, and that's what really matters.
That's right. Yeah, very good.
I was kind of going to make a joke about the diaper thing.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, in a few years, you won't be changing your daughters; you'll be changing mine.
Oh yeah, true. Yeah. I think the podcast will be over.
No.
Yeah, but you'll still be changing his diaper.
Yeah,
that's right.
Podcast, no podcast.
Exactly. It won't change.
Well, eventually they just change yours. Isn't that how it goes? Like,
yes. Some point
hopefully,
in the
hopefully,
in
if
the
you're
reversal
lucky,
happens.
In the circle of life. On a serious note, do you like to sing, Mr. Mayor?
Do I like to sing? Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, I will never, ever sing publicly.
Yeah.
Ever sing publicly. Never.
Right now,
but I love to sing. Like, I'm singing in the car all the time.
There we go.
Especially if I'm by myself. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It's because it's either one or the other. People like to sing in the shower or in the car. There's this.
I don't like singing in the shower.
No, me neither.
I'm a car guy. Shower,
Yeah.
I'm in there for business, and then I'm out.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Well, you should be.
it's funny that you say that you hurt yourself running, because I was never really a runner. I was more of a hockey player and like stuff like that. But I did train for the half marathon here in Ottawa, which is a great event, by the way. And you know that obviously, and did it, and then, but I've had a plantar fasciitis issue since then. So like it's like, and I can't get it out. Like you can't get rid of it. So every now and then I'll wake up in the morning, and it's basically how you walked into the doctor's office. But I didn't get ridiculed like the mayor did.
Well, because you didn't slip and fall, and you're not the mayor.
That's true.
Yeah.
True that. Yeah.
Yeah. Imagine if you walked into a doctor's office and you had the plantar fasciitis and you're limping and you're struggling along, and somebody just looked at you and said, "LRT sucks."
It would make no sense,
Like,
but I was.
why are you telling me that?
Do you know who?
Seriously.
Yeah.
Maybe
exactly.
maybe she didn't know I was the mayor. Like maybe she just goes around saying that to everybody. I don't know.
Could be.
Maybe she has Tourette's.
Yeah.
Tourette's. Her thing is
LRT sucks.
Yeah.
No.
Could be.
But let's say LRT's awesome.
Yeah.
Let's switch the wording, please.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, it is. It is. Eventually, once it's all done, it'll be amazing. for the city.
Absolutely. Yeah. We have a
But
lot of
we're-
work to do, but it's going to be the backbone of our city, and there's so many good things to look forward to, and we've had more than our share of troubles with it, but every major infrastructure problem has growing pains, and program has growing pains, and then you get through it, and then it becomes part of the city. So yeah.
At some point, they'll forget about the issues when it's a couple years down the road. And like you said, it's doesn't matter anything new you start. There's going to be bugs.
Well, and the next generation that uses it won't even know about these issues,
there you go.
right? Like it's like we don't know about what people went through that our grandparents went through. Like they went through infrastructure, right? Like Ottawa's grown exponentially in the last even in the last 10 years. It's wild. So
it's amazing how much the city has changed, really. Like when I think of the city I grew up in, it's totally different now, right? It's even the Canadian Tire Center, and when I remember when the Rideau Center opened, and the Weston and the Congress Center down there, and all of that, and there's so much more going on in terms of restaurants and nightlife in our city than there was when I was a kid. It's amazing how much it's changed.
Yeah, very much so. I just thought of this question. So if the organizers of Blues Fest came to you and said, "We want you to pick the highlight or the headliners for a couple of the days of the Blues Fest, excluding Mr. Springsteen, who are we gonna bring to Ottawa?"
Wow, that's a wide open question. I'm just trying to think who's on the list of potential acts. How far would we want to reach with that? I guess there's no limit, right? On what you can bring with Blues Fest, right? We've had some crazy
acts,
popular artists that have performed there. Why? Again, not for me, but for everybody else. Why not go for Taylor Swift?
Why not?
Why not go for that? I would. Who else? Wouldn't it be great to have Adele performing at Blues Fest?
Yeah.
That'd be a great venue for Adele, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And again, not exactly in my top 10, but huge respect for what she's done and for the music she produces. Who else right now? Has Drake been at Blues Fest?
I don't think he has.
no,
I don't think he ever has.
Yeah.
he only played the CTC.
Yeah. So that would
be another
good.
big draw. For
Another
sure.
big one for sure.
But if I was picking just for myself, I saw Bryan Adams there a few years ago. That was great. Shania Twain, who again doesn't exactly fit into my wheelhouse, but I really, really like. She did a Blues
there
Fest
last
show,
year.
I think.
Yeah, last year.
Yeah, I
Not
wasn't.
this,
I was
not
out
this
of town.
past one, but the one before.
Yeah, I was out of town, I think, so I wasn't able to go. But she's phenomenal. How about if Celine Dion's performing again?
Oh my gosh!
How about that? Right? That would be pretty cool if it was a comeback tour.
Yeah,
I think she would pack the place, man.
Yeah,
they all would.
Yeah, she would just. It would just be nice to have a Canadian a icon like her, and Bryan Adams, of course. I don't know who I'd add.
Like Canadian, or does it?
I don't know. It could be anybody.
Oh.
Anybody you want.
What do I want
Who would you guys pick?
Stapleton.
Oh, Chris Stapleton,
Yeah.
good choice. I'm gonna go New Country. I'd love to see
Coulter Wall.
Zach
He's a
Top.
good Canadian guy.
Zach Top, man.
Yeah, we're going country now.
Yeah,
though, so
there we go.
Whatever.
Anyway, I
okay,
digress.
so Mr. Mayor, Mark, we ask this question to every guest, and it's only because the 70s and the 60s are everybody loves them, but we only ask about 2 decades. So if you had to choose, and I think I know the answer,
Mhm.
between the 80s as a decade of music or the 90s as a decade of music.
Definitely the 80s.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those are my formative years, right? So I could, I remember somebody gave me this thing about 5 years ago, and it was a list of, it was just a lyric from 50 different songs from the 1980s, and you had to guess what the song was.
Ooh,
And I think I got about 48 of them.
nice.
Like it was
Nice.
it's just so in my wheelhouse, right?
Yeah.
I listened to so much music during that time, and I don't know what it is, right? Like you can, like you can meet somebody and an hour later you forget their name, but you remember the lyrics to a Tears for Fears song 40 years after,
Sadly true.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I
And
mean?
much-
Like why is that? Why do we have such a great memory for song lyrics, and yet, I can't remember can't remember somebody's phone number or somebody's name.
Funny how that works, huh?
Yeah.
You're asking the wrong person.
Yeah.
Definitely
What were we
asking the wrong
talking
person.
about?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Who are you?
Yeah.
What's going on?
Yeah, no, I think the reason being is like the arts. That's how important the arts are, right? Like I think
Yeah.
that going on what we were discussing here, it's people are so like as a young person, I think you start with coloring and you do things like that, and it keeps kind of progressing into maybe I'll do dance or I'll do music or I'll be in a play or I'll do it just all goes back to arts. I think that's
Yeah.
and
But
that's why
music
they're
is
so
so
important.
fundamental, right? Like the thing that surprised me, I don't know if you're at this stage yet with your twins, but what surprised me is my kids would nobody showed them to dance or to move to music. They just started doing that on their own. So my
Mhm.
son was like a year old, and when he could first stand up, if there was music on, he would start moving around to it a little bit. So there's something really, really innate about it. There's something that we just respond to it in some way, even there's just something in our DNA that makes us connect to music for some reason. I don't know what it is or what the evolutionary benefit of that is, why that's programmed into us, but it's there, right? Because kids get into music at a very, very young age, and it's not because somebody taught it to them. They just respond to it.
Yeah, it's
I,
true.
I think if you did a deep dive on cultures and stuff, you'd notice like a lot of it has to do with like when you're a celebration of something. What are you doing? You're dancing. There's music.
Yeah.
You're dancing.
Well,
So I think-
it's been
Yeah, it's
forever.
it's time.
It's
time
tribal.
immemorial,
It's actually
right?
tribal.
It is tribal.
I think that's what it would be.
I mean,
You look at some of the African tribes or just tribes in general, like they always end the day with a dance around the fire.
Yeah.
It's like it's something it's innate. I don't know. I think it's great. It is. It's a language. It's a language that everybody speaks.
Yep.
Doesn't matter what language and
what culture, what country, who you are, music is prevalent.
That's right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, thank you so much for joining us. Like
This has been
we
so
know
much fun.
Yeah,
This
we know
has
how
been
busy
awesome.
you are. Yeah.
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 My
We love
pleasure.
it.
Yeah, thanks guys. Thanks for what you do, and keep going. Like this is great stuff. Really glad that you're doing the podcast and celebrating music, and especially, promoting Ottawa. It's great. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for promoting Ottawa.
Yeah, seriously.
Always.
Yeah.
Doug and Gus, Doug and Gus, Doug and Gus.